It is me again. 3 p.m. is the golden time to put you to sleep. I'm just kidding. And today's topic is financial fraud. Financial fraud, we learn from Trump's civil fraud case. Let's see what brought up such a roar in the media, in the social media, right? We hear that all the time about how Trump was charged with civil fraud. And what did he do and what kind of fraud cases they are? Why do we care? As a small business owners, we do. Because these are traps you need to know so you will protect yourself and don't get into a fraud cases like what Trump has been doing for the past decades. Okay, so the case is actually brought by the people of the state of New York versus Donald Trump. It is filed by New York Attorney General Letitia James. You are familiar with that name, right? So the New York Supreme Court Justice Arthur Engoron, and is actually the one sitting, issued the judgment on the case. So this is where the core allegation for this case is about President Trump inflating the asset value, the real estate asset value, the branding value, inflate cash to obtain loans and insurance terms, which violated New York Executive Law Section 6312. So this is what the case is all about. The case is concluded, is charged. So there are wrongdoings of Trump's organization. So that case was concluded on February the 16th, 2024. Of course, right now is going through appeals, but this webinar I am talking about is just to give you examples of what was charged and what is the implications to the small business owners. So what you should do in your own business to avoid all of these kind of things, the wrongdoings, right? So let's get going. And with that, I want to show you our website, communitycpa.com. You absolutely can become our client and work with us. By getting onto our website, you can become our client from the onboarding with us, that button, that first button on the top. So when you click that, you can come in to put your name, give yourself a login credential. Then you can upload your information. You can write message to us and we'll know that, oh, you want to be our client. And that appointment button is when you are ready to get an answer from us, from one of our partners and managers. So you will see all of us on the list, and based on our area of specialty, and you can, you can book appointment, which is a billable service. However, and we do have one guarantee over that. If we didn't answer your question, and we get you even more confused, then we refund the money you paid. But I have never, ever had a case for the past 29 years of practice. This appointment button was available for about 10 years now, and we have never had that case happen. So we answer your question, and it's straightforward, and you can rely on our answers when you book our appointment. Of course, if you don't want to engage us with a fee, you come to YouTube channel. This is a free channel. You come here, you learn. So look at all these webinars we did. And investment losses, what do you do? And are you the only one having investment losses? No, there's a lot of people with the investment loss. You really should watch that video. Okay, so if you were thinking of doing estate planning and wanting to establish living trust and family LLC, all of that question is answered in one of our videos. You just go search for videos and look for answers there. I have 2 books written. I have 2 more coming up. One is 2 p.m. The other one is 6 p.m. I finished the AM book, so I have PM books going. And those are business journeys where community CPA is coming through. So right now, the 2 p.m. is appointment with Ying at 2 p.m. That one is expanding your business. So with what's going on right now, also with the steps that community CPA is taking, I felt like I'm not totally done with the expansion yet. That's why the book is still pending. But my promise is that I'll write down our footprint of how community CPA started from a startup, we grow, and now we're expanding. Then the 6 p.m. is where you are, how you kept your legacy and how you retire from your business. So I have that 4th book to write, which I'm not ready to do that yet. But the 3rd book, 2 p.m., I'm absolutely in it and trying to get that to reflect the real journey of community CPA as well. Of course, all of the content we are giving you right here, it is covered under this no responsibility disclaimer. So obviously, you can hear one thing but can interpret into something else. So when you really getting ready to use the theory you learned from our webinar to your real world, I would encourage you to get someone to verify what you want to do is correct. You can go for your relatives, your brother-in-law, tax preparers, anybody, right? So just to get that verification in, and don't go just by what internet says. And the internet has a lot of conspiracies, so you don't want to trust everyone on the internet. All right, so let's look at this. New York Attorney General Letitia James brought a civil fraud case, right? So the civil fraud case says that Trump organization had done the following wrong things. To do the following wrong things because they want to get a lower loan interest rate, they want to get a favorable insurance premiums, and they want to get a larger insurance coverage limits. So judge already ruled Trump and his entities persistently and intentionally falsify financial statement, violated New York Executive Law Section 6312. This particular section is meant to prevent any organization and individual who practice business in New York to repeatedly, fraudulently doing business conducts. So that's really the purpose of that section. So this section is where boxed all of these wrongdoings for Trump organization. Of course, I want folks to understand the civil case, fraud case, is not a criminal prosecution, right? Nobody is going to jails, and it is just about penalties and civil penalties and recouping the cost, the loss. So this is a money legal case, and it is justifies the conduct of the business owner, like how you conduct your business. So, you may say that, well, it's Trump's case. Why do I need to care? And we want to tell you that for you, as a small business owner, you want to care because you want to sense, you want to understand where the country is going, where that law applies to business people, right? So from our perspective, for our clients, we want to look at the conduct around financial statement, asset valuation, and the loan packaging when you put together an application of the loan and how you submit that loan, right? What's in that packaging? Insurance disclosures and corporate compliance controls, which is internal controls within the company. So this Trump organization case really demonstrate how important these are, because every single one of them has a lot to do with why they're being charged. The charge is huge, right? It's almost $500 million, $470-some million. And the plus interest, and it's like $500 million penalty that is there for Trump Organization. So, with that said, and you look at these 5 areas, I'll cover these areas with you so you understand what we are talking about here. So the core issue related to the fraud is in the financial statement, in the asset valuation, loan packaging, insurance disclosures, and the corporate compliance control. So now, the core fraud system that Trump Organization has is related to these discovery. So the court found Trump issued false statement. The statement of financial conditions. This is like the statement you submit to the bank to tell the bank that how much equity you have so you can borrow. If you have $100 equity, the bank may give you $70 as a loan, right? But if your statement of financial condition is fraudulent, then the bank decision for how much they give you, what they do for you, the rate and everything, and even the insurance to insure how big of a dollar amount, it's all going to be different, right? The bond providers is also going to be bonding that particular project differently. So the court says that your statement of financial condition is totally fraudulent, and you're doing wrong things on asset value, not by $8, $2, by billions of dollars, and repeatedly doing that. So this conduct occurred regularly, annually, from at least 2011 to 2021, established a pattern of fraud rather than accidental mistake. So this is the core issue, the reason of charge. So specific relevant misstatement. This is the Trump Tower, the penthouse. And Trump Organization reported the Trump Tower penthouse with 30,000 square footage, but in actuality, it's only 11,000. So inflated the square footage by 172%. What does that do when you make small place bigger? And what you are doing is you are inflating the value of that penthouse, right? So that is what they do. And 3,000 square footage to 11,000 to 30,000. I think it's very hard to say that it's an accidental mistake. They're in that kind of business. If someone just bought something, had never had a property over 10,000 square footage, and they're not sure it's 20 or 10, that almost can buy it. But not when you are a real estate developer. You knew exactly what you bought for. You knew what the square footage are, and systematically, consistently, you fraudulently enlarge it by 172%. That's a crime. That's a fraud. For rent stabilized apartment. So Trump also have this 40 Wall Street apartment building. So the rent apartments in New York, it has a legal limitations, like you cannot increase your rent as if there's no limit. But what Trump did is, and he will value every apartment at a full market value. Ignore the legal rent controls. So that made the value bigger. Why the value need to be bigger? Because they can use the 40 Wall Street to get more money from the bank, because you got more value to the building, but your loan did not increase, so your equity grow bigger. So this is a known fraudulent calculation of the 40 Wall Street. So that's also in the court case. So that is being charged as the, produce artificially inflated income projection and mislead lenders regarding cash flow potentials. So these are all, the language is being used in the court case. If you go to New York court, I know it's internet available, you can find those information. More, that's not only of things. There is a Seven Springs estate in New York and the Mar-a-Lago in Florida. So those are also valued using potential, hypothetical, which means imaginary, development potential, and ignore the zoning, deed, conservation restrictions. Those are not something you ignore when you value the property. So the valuation wasn't done professionally. It is really done by folks that with no concept of fraud. They probably did not know they are fraudulently conducting that doing by just listening to the boss, right? Oh yeah, so what do you want? You want it to be evaluated at $40 billion? Okay, let me work it out. So, that might be what the internal accountant is doing. But the court ruled that these unsupported highest and the best use assumption, it is improper valuation methodology. Of course, you may say that, well, how could that happen? Don't they have their accountant, their CPA firms, and working together? And remember, Trump don't use CPA firms, and he has this, all-inclusive accountant who were in jail for a couple of months. So, this person is the one that really handles the finance, plus the children, right? So there is no valuation governance structure, so which means that valuation wasn't done professionally and wasn't done by a CPA or by a certified evaluator. So the independent appraisal wasn't reviewed, it wasn't done independently. The documentation verification was not there. One of the arguments I remember I hear, of course I wasn't in the courtroom, but I just, on social media there's so many comments, right? So one of the comments they're saying is that these appraisals, evaluations should be independently verified by the lender as well, but they didn't do it. So, from the Trump organization standpoint, they give a fraudulent one, but why is the bank doesn't catch it? So a lot of time I'm thinking the bank don't want to catch it, right? They think that, it's okay. They can just get the money out and support Trump organization. So the reality is that maybe the bank didn't suffer any loss. Not like those 6 bankruptcies that President Trump filed. And obviously the partners or many contractors in those bankruptcy files are suffered loss. But the financial institution that we're talking about who supports the 40 Wall Street and Mar-a-Lago and also the Trump Towers, they may not suffer any losses. But this is another slide I want to explain to you. But for right now, I want you to focus on internal control. So a proper organization, let's say you have a business you are running, and if you needed the business to be evaluated, it is important that you do the valuation by a third party, whether it's your CPA firms or it is someone who knows how to do the valuation. So you want that to come from independent sources, right? Instead of you doing that, it goes, yeah, I valued my company. It is $500,000, period. But that valuation doesn't matter how you package it. It doesn't separate you from a independent standpoint of view, because those valuation, the appraisals, documentation really need to be produced by third party. So a lot of times, and we have our clients, they are doing, say they're doing a construction. They're doing construction, they want construction loan. So this construction loan, the bank need to approve the loan. So our client would need to come up with the map, the blueprints for the structure itself, the detailed budget for every step, that how much that would be. So we normally would work with our client to get every single component bid. by a third party. So we know the roofing comes in how much dollars and the foundation how much dollars. It's not our client sitting here goes, oh yeah, I think the window is 15,000, put that in. So it need a third party input to come up with your construction value. So now you got your third party estimate put together. So your building is 2.5 million. That is what you give to the bank and tell bank that construction loan, I need 2.5. Then the bank will evaluate that themselves. They may rely on what you give, or they may rely on their experience and what they have to decide, oh yeah, the building 2.5 is pretty good. You probably, after you finish building, the bank estimate that this building going to be worth 5 million. That is where the equity comes in. The bank will do the construction loan. The bank will also do a conventional loan after you finish the construction. So those are things, what we learned from Trump's case is that you want that to be done by a third party, not your adult child, not your children, and they are VP of finance and sign off on everything. Then they are not separated from liability, so they are also going to be charged. So just like Ivanka Trump, right? Ivanka Trump signed all of these valuation. She even had an email that talked about how valuation was done, exaggerated internally, but it's not, it's what they give to the bank. It's not a real value. So those kind of communication, this kind of work internally means that you have no governance structure. So a good company, if you really want to run well and run with a legacy and into the future, and you want to follow those guidance, know that you need to have something that you can prove to be legit. You cannot just decide on your own how much value your property worth, right? You should have a compliance officer for yourself. Maybe you are the one, maybe the business owner is a compliance officer. Then that requires you to really understand the boundaries between error, mistake versus fraud. That is a very clear line when you get to the court. Mistakes happens, but fraud is intentionally happen repeatedly. So our interpretation is to say that weak control convert to aggressive accounting, tax filing, aggressive borrowing, and then lead to lies. And you don't want that. You want to make sure that everything you do, it is going by the standards. Now, this is a very important slide. I want everyone to take a note. Small business owners. You know, Trump had an argument related to this charge. He said, no harm, no fault, which means that if I lied about my loan, I got the loan from the bank with a really good rate, but I did not default on bank's loan. So the bank didn't lose money, they made money from me, so no fault. That is not a defense. That defense already got rejected by New York Court appeals. So it is not matter whether the loss or whether victim is presented or not. It is your action that being charged as fraud, not the result being charged as fraud. Trump argued, right? Trump argued the lender, the bank were really happy and they're profited. But the court ruled fraud does not require financial harm. Deception alone is sufficient. Just hear that. That is so important for you to know. Okay? This means that mispresentation itself constitutes legal injury, regardless of the performance, loan performance. So you may got a loan going, but the loan was based on fraudulent information. That is a risk for you. If you got discovered, if you were on court, you'll be charged no different from how President Trump and his organization will be charged. So I want to say to our small business owner that just take that to heart, okay? And you know what this country is going through. So if that is applied to the biggest real estate developer at a time, and it also happened to be 2 times of the president of this country, and you can imagine that it will apply on you square. You cannot imagine that there's any favor for anybody. Of course, I say that the fraud does not equal to error. Error, a mistake, doesn't become a fraud. A mistake is mistake. A fraud is fraud. Fraud character is a mistake plus repetitive occurrence plus the knowledge you purposefully did it. So that's what the New York court is proving, that Trump family is doing that systematically, knowingly, and decades long. So that's not a mistake. Management responsibility cannot be delegated. So there's also another argument Trump has, blaming it all for outside accountant. Oh yeah, my accountant did that, my accountant did this person did that, this person did that. So the accountant did go to jail. However, the court said the management responsibility cannot be delegated. So which means that if you are a small business owner and you give the financial statement to somebody to do, your brother-in-law. Your brother-in-law didn't really know how to do it, but you want him to do, and he did it for you. So when you got into trouble with that financial statement, because IRS come back and believe that your financial statement is done wrong, and you made much more money than what you reported, you owe a lot of taxes at the same time, and they are penalize you for submitting fraudulent data. You say, well, I didn't do it. My brother-in-law did it. It's not something I should take responsibility. No. And the court decided that the management bears full responsibility for financial statement accuracy, regardless of CPA involvement or not. Did you hear that? So even when you hire a CPA firm like Community CPA, we got it all done, and you need to review it. You need to make sense of it. This is management responsibility, right? So CPA report data, management owns the numbers. Did you see that? So these are the things we want to make sure that you're clear. As a business owner, you can't run away from your responsibility. But of course, as a CPA firm, we have our own professional conduct regulation. So in order to stay as a CPA firm on the market, and we have all these education, all of these internal control, the process we're going through. So most likely, the CPA firm you're dealing with is a real CPA firm, so they follow the rules and regulation. And on top of that, if you take responsibility for your own business, then you'll be good. You should not be worried. Summary and a final thought. Trump's fraud case proves that financial mispresentation, weak controls, and unsupported valuation can lead to civil penalty, civil liability, criminal charge. So those are big liability in business. You can be in business, not make money, or make little money, or not making money, lose money altogether. But you don't want to lose your reputation, getting into the civil penalty side of things. You don't have $500 million like our president does. All right? And our president can, he can get a gifted aircraft. He can just sell that aircraft and pay it all, right? So people has ways to make money, but not small business owners. And you really are eating, drinking out of what you earn, and you can't afford this kind of legal cases coming to you. Okay? Strong CPA oversight, a governance system, and the documentation step by step is essential tools for you. And if you want to do certain reports, and always ask for third party to give you the report. Even if you drafted the report, you can still engage professional to get that opinion expressed and have an audit done. You know, our firm does audit. So what is audit? Audit is a third party coming to look at your internal control, look at your financial statement, and issue an opinion. So the opinion will be independent accountant opinion, and you can use this opinion to go anywhere you want it. You had the third party approval. And in Trump's case, he never done audit. There's no auditors ever come around to look at what they're doing. They kept the lid within their family, so they're operating fraudulently on the financial reporting side. That is why they're in court. So I want you to learn from Trump's organization experience and know what to do for yourself. If you have questions, and consult with us, and we're here for you. And this is the appointment button on our website. You can literally make an appointment with any one of us, and just know that it's always safe for small business owners to look for third party to help you finish those key estimate. When you are applying for loan, it's such a great idea to have the loan package prepared, organized by professionals. Our firm does a lot of loan packages for our client. We know their financial, we know what they can do, and so it's really a win-win situation when you have that kind of professional folks holding your back, so you can move forward doing it right, never get into the situation where President Trump and his family getting into. All right, I will be seeing you again this Saturday, and this Saturday we will be talking about a topic called move, not to move, from Texas to Kansas. So that will be our topic. So I will see you on the weekend. If you happen to go between these two states, you know to come to listen to our analysis. Move or not move. Talk to you again. Bye-bye.